You're just a stranger. Leave quickly. My sister-in-law, who came back home for a homecoming childbirth, suddenly raised her voice. She hadn't even shown up for my father-in-law's memorial service, and she hadn't done anything to help my struggling mother-in-law. I felt like all my previous efforts were being trampled upon by her abused words. Even my husband, who should have been my only ally, didn't come to my rescue. On the contrary, he joined in and insulted me like this. Just obey my sister's order and stay as a housekeeper, but you will have to sleep in the hallway. If that's what you want, then I don't care anymore. I'll divorce you. In the moment, all the patience I had maintained until now turned into anger. My name is Bonnie. I got married to Wade 3 years ago. We don't have children, but I have a fulfilling job that brings me satisfaction, and I enjoy my days. Wade isn't very diligent with his work. He frequently leaves early and seems to go to the casino. When I come home, he's already there, lying on the sofa, reeking of the cigarette smoke. He never mentioned anything about gambling before we got married, but after some time passed, he started asking me for money to gamble with. I'm just taking a little break, you know. I don't have any cash on hand right now. I'll definitely pay it back. Around a year into our marriage, he started spending weekends at the casino, completely immersed in it. Naturally, he doesn't make any time for me. And of course, the money he borrowed for the casino never comes back. Still, he is the person I decided to be with until the end. Divorce never crossed my mind. I tend to think negatively about everything, while Wade always looks at things positively, believing that everything will work out somehow. The fact is, he has been a great support for me. When I receive a promotion or started something new, Wade always encouraged me. That's why I never came to dislike him, even though he got caught up in gambling. Fortunately, I earn a decent salary. Wade works too, even though he earns less than me, so we aren't struggling financially. If gambling helps him relieve the stress of daily life, then I thought it was okay. One evening, Wade didn't come home even after I arrived. He rarely works overtime, so I wondered what happened. Just when I was thinking that, he returned home close to 9 o'clock. I got fired from my job. That was the first thing he said. I was taken aback and couldn't find words to respond. Desperately, I tried to think of something to say. Oh really, it's tough these days with everything going on. You will find a new job soon. For a while, we can manage with just my salary, and we have some savings too. I tried to cheer Wade with my words, but it seemed to rub him the wrong way. Don't act all high and mighty just because you earn a decent salary. Looking down on me, huh? Just wait and see. Wade started flipping through job listings in a job magazine with great enthusiasm. Although his sudden outburst startled me, it would be good if he became determined to find his next job. However, it seems that Wade is not particularly pleased with the fact that his wife earns a higher salary than he does. A few days later, he brought up something like this. I can't afford the rent, so I've decided to move in with my parents. My mom seems lonely since my dad passed away, so it's a good opportunity. Living together? His sudden statement caught me off guard. I take care of the rent. Let's reconsider. Moving in together all of a sudden would burden your mother too, right? I don't have a bad relationship with my mother-in-law. On the contrary, she's always been kind to me. She's a very delicate person and always looks out for me. That's why I thought living together might tire her out. However, Wade disregards my concerns and glares at me with an intense look. You'll pay the rent? Are you boasting about how financially secure you are? I'm the one who rented this apartment under my name. I'm the one saying I can't afford the rent, so you should leave. Don't you dare act superior to me. I never intended to boast or act superior. I just wanted to cooperate as a married couple. We've always split the rent equally, so I didn't think he had such a pride about paying the rent. I don't want to say anything else that might provoke him further. Reluctantly, I decided to accept the idea of living together. And so our life of living with my in-laws began. As expected, my delicate mother-in-law is always considerate of Wade and me. Taking advantage of that, he started living an increasingly indulgent lifestyle. I found a job, he proudly announced, but it turns out to be a part-time job at a supermarket only 3 days a week. This is my house, so I don't need to pay rent. As long as I have money to play with, I'm good. On his days off, Wade would quickly leave and get even more immersed in gambling than before. As for me, my workplace became further from home, so commuting took more time, dramatically reducing my free time. As a result, my days off turned into a routine of either working or sleeping. Then one day something happened. My mother-in-law slipped on the stairs and became bedridden. She blamed herself, saying it was her own carelessness, but I'm sure she had been over-exerting herself by worrying about us too much. I felt full of guilty. I talked to my husband about my mother-in-law, but he completely ignored me. Even though I asked him to take care of her on his days off from work, he didn't do anything. There were times when he didn't even feed her anything until I came home. I couldn't leave my mother-in-law in Wade's care any longer. I was troubled and unsure about what to do. Taking caregiving leave doesn't mean I can take it indefinitely. If my husband isn't going to do anything, do I have no choice but to quit my job and devote myself to caregiving? However, it's simply impossible for our family of 3 to survive on Wade's income alone. Even if we have some savings, eventually it will run out. I'm aware of the existence of nursing facilities, but I don't want to burden my mother-in-law mentally. There's no way my considerate mother-in-law wouldn't notice me constantly worrying and spinning in circles. One day, she said something to me. "Bunny, I'll be fine. Please, put me in a facility or something. Don't quit the job you've been working so hard for just for me." How happy those words from my mother-in-law made me. Even if I choose to provide care, I want to make a choice that I won't be a burden on her. Considering the use of caregiving services as an option, I consulted with the primary physician. They introduced me to a care manager, and my mother-in-law started attending day services. That brought some relief. Since then, my mother-in-law has been using the day services, and when I'm around, I take care of her. Unlike the time when I was agonizing, I have become more positive about both work and caregiving. My mother-in-law expresses words of gratitude almost every day for my care. By the time a year had passed since we started living together, my mother-in-law and I had built a true parent-child relationship. The news of my sister-in-law's visit coincided with such a time. It seems she's 3 months pregnant. Apparently, she's been out with my husband's parents and she hadn't even announced her pregnancy to them. My sister-in-law called and said, "I'm coming over now." A few hours later, she rang the doorbell. I let my sister-in-law into the living room and served her barley tea while explaining the current situation of our house. "I'm sorry, sister-in-law. It might not be my place to say this, but we don't have space for you to stay overnight in this house." "Huh? What do you mean?" I briefly explained to her. I mentioned that my mother-in-law attends day services and requires care, and she occupied a large room, while my husband and I used the other rooms respectively, leaving no vacant rooms. Although I felt guilty about pushing out a pregnant woman, considering the situation in this house after giving birth, it was indeed challenging. I also mentioned that the disagreement with our in-laws was just a minor argument, and it would be better to gratefully leave. However, my sister-in-law was not convinced. On top of that, she said something like this: "You will be so high and mighty, but you are just a stranger. If you leave, the problem is solved, right? Hurry up and get out." Those words left me disappointed. Indeed, I can't say that my relationship with my sister-in-law is good. In the first place, she hardly ever comes back to this house since getting married and moving out of her parents' home. The only time she returned was for my father-in-law's funeral. Apparently, she didn't like how I was bustling around helping during the funeral. Acting all goody-goody. The real child of this place is me, you know? Those were the first words she threw at me. As a result, I don't have a favorable impression of my sister-in-law. I'm sure she doesn't think highly of me either. However, I never expected her to tell me to leave. It feels like all the effort I put into taking care of my mother-in-law has been instantly disregarded. I was struck by indescribable emotions at the time. "I'm home!" I heard Wade's voice. He must have just come back from the casino since he's been going there since morning. Seeking salvation, I headed toward the entrance. My sister-in-law glared at me while I briefly explained her situation, and she said, "Starting today, I'm going to live here. I think it's only right for the real sister to live here rather than stranger." Then Wade, as if contemplating something, gazed into the distance and said something unbelievable. "Yeah, she's right. Bunny, just follow my sister's instruction quietly." What is he saying? I could do nothing but be shocked by his statement. Wait a minute. What about taking care of your mother? What about our future expenses? Who's going to do all the things I've been doing? "We'll figure something out," my husband responded lazily. "There's the inheritance from my father, and my mother has her pension. Actually, you've been a nuisance to me for a long time. Acting all high and mighty just because you are more than me. trying to please and manipulating my mother. This is perfect timing. Pack your things and leave today. He had been living as he pleased, leaving all the responsibility regarding my mother-in-law and all finances solely to me. Feeling helpless, I stayed silent and Wade added insult to the injury. If you want to continue being a housekeeper, you can stay here, but you won't have a room, sleeping in the hallway or something. That was the moment. What I had been enduring suddenly transformed into anger. Fine, if you are going to say that much, let's get a divorce. Huh? Wade widened his eyes. After saying such awful things, if he thinks he won't get divorced, that would be even more surprise. You've only seen me as a housekeeper, right? But let me tell you, I'm not just a housekeeper or your ATM. I'm your wife. If you are going to talk like that, let's get a divorce. If you don't want a divorce, then turn down your sister's proposal. Hold on a second. Wade seemed perplexed, but perhaps my determination got through to him. He compared my sister-in-law and I and said, I see, even though I let you stay in this house, you are incapable of valuing family. Get out quickly. You are not welcome here. Incapable of valuing family? The person who never lifted a finger to take care of his mother is saying what? I surpassed anger and simply felt astounded. I understand. So divorce, right? Fine. I don't want to see your face anymore. Get out already. With Wade's agreement, I began preparing to leave. Driven by anger, I blurted out the word divorce, but as I came down, I started to worry about my mother-in-law. I decided to jot down the contract information for the primary doctor and care manager, along with any necessary caregiving details. Taking only the barest essentials, I bid farewell to my mother-in-law. I'm sorry, mother-in-law. I'll be leaving this place. Wade and I are getting a divorce. I'm truly sorry for leaving you in such a difficult situation. Then my mother-in-law directed a gentle gaze toward me. No need to apologize. Despite being in-laws, you've been so good to me, Bonnie. I can't thank you enough. I've decided to move into a facility, so please don't worry. From now on, live freely and pursue your own life. I'll be cheering you on. Tears welled up in my eyes upon hearing my mother-in-law's warm words. For a while, I stayed with my parents, and later I rented an apartment close to my workplace. With a shorter commute and the ability to focus solely on myself, I regained my enthusiasm for work. The divorce papers were successfully processed, and I officially embarked on the journey of my second life. It had been a month since I left my in-laws' house when Wade started to contact me frequently. The messages all said, "Please come back home." It seemed like he had realized how difficult the household chores were without me. "Oh, Bonnie, can't you come back right now? My sister is pregnant, but she doesn't help with anything. The house is a mess. Please, I'm begging you." I could only think, so what? In response to my ex-husband's messages, so I decided to ignore it. Wade, who was persistent and wouldn't give up, continued contacting me for several months. During the time, I kept visiting the facility to see my mother-in-law. Even simple conversations made her happy. According to the staff at the facility, it seems that neither Wade or my sister-in-law had visited even once, In the end, my mother-in-law passed away at the facility. Attending the funeral, I witnessed something unpleasant. Enough already. Go back to your husband. If you won't go back, at least contribute financially to the house. Don't act so high and mighty toward your sister. You're not planning to hog the inheritance, are you? Despite the circumstances, Wade and my sister-in-law shamelessly argued with each other in front of everyone. It seems that their focus was solely on inheriting the estate and money, rather than their mother's passing. Not only me, but also other attendees were taken aback by their behavior during such a time. How did these children grow up like this, with a mother like our late mother? I'm sure most people had the same question as me. On the other hand, my mother-in-law was well respected, and many people crowded the funeral. Upon closer inspection, my sister-in-law was holding a baby. It seemed she had successfully given birth, but her husband was nowhere to be seen. After the funeral, I was approached by a man named Wayne, who was my mother-in-law's relative and also a lawyer. In the room I was led to, Wade and my sister-in-law were sitting. Both of them looked at me with a gaze that seemed to be saying, "Why is she here?" Now, I will read the contents of the will. As Wayne spoke, I could hear Wade and my sister-in-law gasp. Their reaction seemed as if they had been waiting for this moment, which further disillusioned me. I will bequeath the remaining assets to Bonnie, who took care of everything during her lifetime, while providing each of my two children with their statutory shares of inheritance. Even if the marital relationship with my son is terminated at the time of inheritance, there will be no changes. However, if it is proven that both children actively engaged in caregiving, this will shall be revoked, and inheritance shall be governed by the civil code. The remaining inheritance of my mother-in-law to me? I couldn't find any word to respond to this sudden act of generosity. After all, I didn't even know that my mother-in-law had prepared such a document. After finishing the reading of the will, Wayne sharply criticized Wade and my sister-in-law. He condemned them for not providing any care for my mother-in-law and for never showing up at the facility. He also mentioned their earlier argument in front of a large group of people. Both of them remained silent, heads down, as they received the reprimand. According to the will, Bonnie will also receive a share of the inheritance. When Wayne said that, it was Wade who finally broke the silence. "No way, I have debts from the casino. I was counting on my mom's inheritance. It's unfair that biological children will have their share of the inheritance reduced." "Exactly, I need the inheritance too. I have to raise my child alone, and I need money." According to the story, my sister-in-law wasn't kicked out by our parents-in-law due to a disagreement, but rather because her infidelity was discovered. She kept silent all this time, thinking that if the truth about her affair came out, she wouldn't be allowed to stay at her parents' house. The child she gave birth to seems to be from her affair partner, but as soon as she announced her pregnancy, she lost contact with him. "I need money, and I don't have any to spare for others. Bonnie, stay out of this." My sister-in-law raised her voice in agitation. At the moment, Wayne raised his voice even louder than my sister-in-law, asserting his dominance. "This is a fair will. No matter how much you make the fuss, the situation won't change. But we are her biological children. Exactly. We have the right to receive the entire inheritance. In truth, I wouldn't want to give you a single penny. Be grateful for receiving your statutory shares. Even so, why Bonnie? Exactly. She isn't even blood related. Shut up. You didn't care for your mother and never even visited her at the facility. Yet you dare to say such things. You ungrateful child. At that point, the two of them awkwardly lower their heads and never speak again. Eventually, my in-law's house was sold, and the two of them ended up with no place to live. They couldn't afford to rent an apartment, so they now live in a small room with Wade, my sister-in-law, and her child. To repay debts that the inheritance couldn't cover, Wade significantly increased his work shift and took on extra part-time jobs. My sister-in-law works tirelessly, leaving her young child at daycare. On the other hand, my life remains peaceful and unchanged. My hard work and work has been recognized, and I will soon be entrusted with a significant project. As for the inheritance I received from my mother-in-law, I have no immediate plan to use it. With my mother-in-law's word of encouragement in my heart, I will continue to strive every day